Welcome, everyone, to Peak Presence Leadership Origin Stories. Today, I'd like to welcome Tobe Allenbrand, former Global VP of Sales and I think Chief Commercial Officer at Aptix, CEO of some company right now. I actually don't know the name of the company. So, Tobe, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. What is the name of your company?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So it's kind of a large, complex, interwoven story that I get the opportunity to tell. So we are in the process of doing a rebrand right now. It's an interesting story, and I guess that's what we're here to talk about. But yeah, so Langdale Holdings is the holdings company that I am currently CEO and president of. But we've got a bunch of different entities that fall below that, and we're going to be a group of acquired companies that provide specialty manufacturing. So we will come up with a new whiz-bang name that kind of describes who we are and how we can help our customers.
So, nameless right now.
Yeah, nameless right now. I'm so close. So we did acquire the domain. It's going through legal right now to make sure that we can use it. We probably should have delayed a little bit while longer, but it gives me an excuse to come back and say hi to you later on and debut the name.
Okay, I can't wait. I can't get a sneak peek either. I was going to try to probe you for a sneak peek, but
Those legal
sounds like there might be some issues with that.
Yeah.
Well, again, no, thank you for joining us. So the first time I met you virtually, you came up in the sales world. So did I. Spent my career in medical device sales. So as anyone out there in sales, right, we try anything and everything to get people's attention. So I'm going to share a little secret that I've started to do that's quite awkward and uncomfortable. Send a quick 45-second video on LinkedIn off the cuff. I personally hate pitches. I just go off the cuff because, right, just kind of like we're doing right now. And just like, hey, trying to get to know you. This is what I'm doing. And this guy, usually salespeople tend to be more responsive. Like, oh, I love this. Like, so my career trying to figure out how to get in touch with people. So that's how Tobe and I first met.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. Something I hate saying outside the box, but everything is so interactive and we're getting hit. And so many different angles, whether it's phone calls or texts or emails, and something that's a little bit different or creative. I always try to take the time to understand why the heck is this crazy guy reaching out to me and what is he offering? And sometimes that little differentiation is what makes a difference, right? Yeah.
And here's the thing, like I'm sure you can relate to this, right? As you're new, well, for me, like in my sales career and even now building out this recruiting practice, I don't quite know what my offering is at this point other than me, right? But also it's like until I get to know the person, I'm not quite sure if and how I can effectively bring value at this point anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's an evolving process. I mean, and don't sell yourself short as being the value. And that's one of the things over my career that I've really found that it's one, this is an extremely small industry. It's big money, but it's a small sandbox. And you tend to grow up with kind of the same crew or within, a vertical. You're stomping around the same trade shows and in and out of the same doors a lot of times, and you don't meet right away. You know a lot of the same people and the interactions. So a lot of times it's just what's good for the industry is good for everyone. So team building, bringing together different personalities and capabilities together into one offering, and you get the opportunity of being kind of like that matchmaker, right? Bringing a needed individual's talent together into a larger organization, and it's both ways. You need to find what what language each other speaks. Love language? I don't know. Maybe that's going too far. But
What's your
finding
love language, Tobe?
that culture attachment, right? Like that you can thrive in that culture and that environment, and ultimately become the best you can be. We were talking about crazy sales guy ideas, and you stimulated a thought from my past. So I was the new kid, a new sales guy trying to make a point, and back then it was just like you cold calls like crazy. Back in the old days when we had maps, we didn't have GPS or that kind of stuff. So most of your day was spent lost going in circles. Well, I came up with this great idea because everybody was doing email campaigns at the time. So I decided that I would do a fax campaign, and I would send out all these faxes. I looked up on, the internet, and that time was a phone book. Some people might not know what that is, but it used to be where you got numbers and people's connections. And I got all these fax numbers and I sent out these faxes. I got more feedback from the fax input than I did from the emails because people would go, one guy told me, he goes, I didn't even know we still had a fax machine until this came across. But just being different, setting yourself out there and taking a chance sometimes is all it takes.
So you're talking about your early sales career. So I actually have your LinkedIn pulled up right here. So, okay. I see. Starts at 1993, sales representative.
You're giving
So
away my gray hairs.
I'm not even going to tell you how old I was in 1993. 5. Okay, so 1993, sales rep, sending out faxes. Like, yes, and I don't quite know what a fax is, but sending out faxes. Did you have a vision like one day I want to be a CEO? I want to run a company. Or did that just kind of, like, how does that happen?
Now, I mean, it's a great question, and it evolved. As a kid growing up, I I always wanted to be a sales guy. Like I thought that was like that was where I wanted to fit. I wanted to own a business, but I liked being a sales guy. I was selling my parents on why we needed a new big screen TV and what the ROI was on getting one, and selling the chocolates for the kids at school for the little leagues and all that kind of fun stuff. And then as I got older, I got into some school jobs doing some retail sales and that type of thing. So I've always thought that sales was exciting and that I'd always kind of that would be my thing, that I would be a sales guy. On kind of the reverse side, I love learning. I hated school, but I love learning and continuously kind of finding what are the features and benefits. Why would I actually want this for myself? Why would somebody else want this particular product or service? And so I just kind of naturally latched on to that, kind of that specialty sales or the reasons why. And I got the opportunity to do a little bit of training as as a young, I guess, a young sales guy that kind of led through some of that, where feature, action, benefit, and what makes sense and why, and don't just sell somebody something to sell it to them. Sell them something that they love and adds value to their life because they're going to come back to you. And the secret to sales guy success is it's not you don't make it off of one sale. That's just the start. It's the continuous relationship that you build with your customer partner that goes on for a long time. I mean, I'm still talking to some of my first customers that I had starting out in the business, and when they need something, they know they can reach out to me, and whether I've got it or don't, we'll have a conversation to qualify what I believe might be the best path or collaborate on what might be good.
So part of the secret, it sounds like you just said, is relationships.
100%. Again, it's a small sandbox. You'd be surprised how everything comes back around. It's really, I've always built my career, whether I was on the operations side or on the sales side, that relationships are everything. And I don't really have competitors in the space. We compete for some of the same projects in business, but what's good for me is good for them, and what's good for them is good for me. So I want what's good for the business. And sometimes that means me not participating in something, or if our company or our offering doesn't quite fit the need of our customer, then I'll refer, what might be considered a competitor, to make sure that our customer gets the right fit. So they always trust in me, my offering and my organization.
So you're focused on building a trusted relationship and just doing the right thing, which maybe potentially might not be doing business with you in particular. And if that's the case, if you think the right thing is potentially with someone else, you're going to say, look, this may not be the best opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd recommend going this direction.
Yeah, especially, getting further in the career and going after some of those bigger projects. If you're putting together a medical device, it could take years before it hits the market, right? You're looking 5, 6, 7, 8 years in advance to put something together. So if you're going to trust somebody with that project, then you got to trust them. You got to know that when it's time to go, they're going to do whatever it takes. Failure is not an option, and that they're going to have your best interest along the whole way, even if that means that we need to outsource a portion of it or take a knee.
But what about, because everybody starts somewhere, right? They get a job, they start in sales somewhere, they start with a company somewhere. There's quotas, you have bosses on you, there's this, there's that. And like, I imagine maybe you didn't, but there's anxiety like, oh my God, how am I going to hit my number? How am I going to do this? Is that a difficult process to say, maybe I'm going to push them in a different direction, even though I have my own needs, my own number? Like, how do you, or is it just that's the right thing to do? Let's do that.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not an easy position to put yourself in. So, one thing that I've always tried to do is I've ever since I was a kid, and I mentioned that I love going to work for knowledge, and I've taken jobs for less money just so that I could learn. I learned more from the traditional apprentice program versus through a textbook, you know, learn through seeing and doing. And so I always tried to put myself into a position where I didn't get caught in the financial mousetrap of the world where I needed a particular job or I needed a sale in order to pay my mortgage or my car payment. Uh, I've always tried to put myself in the position to where I didn't go to work for money. And if you're able to get yourself into that position, you're making proper logical decisions that may feel like you're harming yourself in the short run, but really you're winning in the long run because you're building that positive relationship. So when that big project comes along and it's a fit, you're the first one they call. You're not going through a bid process. And now you're not talking about price anymore. You're talking about solutions that you and your organization are going to provide for that individual and your solution sales. You're not trying to shave pennies with the guy next to you.
So we're trying to uncover the path to a CEO, and I think we're starting to get there. So
Yeah.
constant learning, just that's your mindset. What can I learn? And it sounds like whether it's a success, what did we do well? What can we repeat? Or what do you think you learn more from, success or failure?
Yes. You should be
Both.
learning from them equally.
Yes.
And and what we that I think the biggest problem, especially in manufacturing isn't easy. If it was, everyone would be doing it, right? So what we actually define as a failure is sometimes our problem. When we're going through a project and we're launching something, because we have a problem, it's not necessarily mean it's a failure. How we're going to be defined is not that we had a problem. How we're going to be defined is how we actually went and solved the issue. Did we have a B and C plan? How did we react when the problem occurred and how we resolve the issue and we do it together, timely, and in a positive manner. So if having a problem is a failure, then that's part of your problem because you're going to have issues. And the failure part is when you just give up and don't keep going
So the only place failure actually is real is when you just give up, not.
and don't learn from it. I mean, you know, Elon Musk is a perfect guy to take a look at, and hugely successful. One of the things that he used to get made fun of for SpaceX is his rockets blowing up, and everyone called it a huge failure of SpaceX, when in reality it was the biggest advancement he ever made. You said it yourself, taking a risk is not the failure. The failure is not taking the risk. The failure is not taking the opportunity, not taking the chance. And then when something goes wrong, not learning from it. You can learn so much from a failure as long as you pick yourself back up, get your organization back on its feet and go, then that's not a failure. It's a learning experience.
Whether in career or life, what's your biggest failure ever?
Hmm. I, I don't know that I could define a single failure because every single time that I've met and ran into a challenge, I've had a ton of challenges, right? I've learned from them and readapted and either changed a position, a career, or even a company to align with the direction that I needed to go to be successful. I,
So
I,
you
I can't put
have,
my thumb on a single mind blowing one.
well, and I guess based off your answers before, that makes sense. It sounds like you don't necessarily even believe in failure to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and it's always a stage of continuous learning and understanding. If you're going to go to the moon, you're going to blow up a few rockets. If you're going to build the fastest race car, you're going to crash a few. And if you're not doing that, you're not trying hard enough. And when you're not learning from those we'll call them failures or opportunities, then that's when things really start going sideways. And that's when you're either stalling your capabilities, your career, or your ultimate goal is because you're you're operating in a place of fear versus just trying to push forward.
But does that ever happen to you? Do you ever get to that place of fear, that place of self-pity, that place of doubt?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's when you got to have a network and you got to have a team. So in manufacturing, the one thing that that I definitely learned pretty quick was that you can't do it by yourself. It's not scalable. It's not achievable. It's not possible. You have to have a good team around you, and a lot of times that team is a whole lot smarter than you are. If you want to be the smartest guy in the room, don't go into a large organization. Don't try to become leadership, because often the smartest people in the room should be around you. You should be accumulating a team of the smartest people that you know and bring them all together.
Okay, so as we build this path to a CEO, constant learning
Hmm.
and good team around you. We got two, I think those are two bullet points. If we could have a
Yeah,
chart that
yeah, yeah. We'll start the chart on the side.
I've got it written down. Ooh.
I mean, and it applies to manufacturing in general, right? So continuous learning, more continuous improvement. It isn't a value add to your organization. It's a table leg. It's a leg of the stool. If you don't have it, you're not going to be relevant and you can't compete. If you were to liken that to a race car team, if if you're operating your race car team the same way, your pit crew, the same way that you did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you're no longer going to be competitive in today's market because technology has changed, efficiencies have changed, techniques have changed. It's not the same atmosphere that it was 5 years ago. So if you walk into a manufacturer and a manufacturing practice and they're still operating the same way that they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because that's the way we've always done it, they're losing ground. They're losing their edge. They're going to have a difficulty becoming competitive in the current market. Someone's going to be able to take it away from them.
So the willingness to adapt and to change and almost be proactive in that, not reactive.
The one
How do we,
thing we could all count on is change.
in business and in life?
And yeah, in anything, right? The one thing we can always count on is change.
Do you think there's, I may not ask this the right way, like a separation in how you approach business and how you approach the rest of your life, or is there a lot of similarities?
That's a good question, actually.
I know.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a right answer. I think that if you're in your ultimate at least if I'm in my ultimate happy place, there's a pretty fine line between what I like to do and what I do for work. So if you can basically make money at your hobby or what you enjoy doing, you've hit the holy grail. No matter what level you are in an organization, if you really enjoy what you're doing every day and you're happy and you're paying your bills, you've hit your happy place. In the early days, the difficult part was bringing the work mentality home, because at home I'm not the CEO, my wife is. Yeah, if I react that way and make quick decisions and that type of thing, the household becomes a little bit different. My audience is different. The maturity of that audience is different. And I guess, this talking out loud may be coming to an epiphany. The workplace is a lot of the similar things. We're part of our journey is acquiring smaller organizations that haven't matured and they haven't seen the same sort of things that maybe I've been exposed to by having the opportunity to seeing a whole bunch of different manufacturing locations across the world. So they don't know what they don't know. And so coming down to their level and helping them realize what is good is kind of the challenge. And that's the part where we need to slow down and kind of read the room and understand what's going on so that we can get everyone to kind of come together into one what is good.
So it's relatively similar.
Yeah, it's relatively similar.
I so I came from med device on the OEM side in sales, and right, anything in medical, it's hard to break into the industry. And still to this day, I get called by people trying to break in. They're like, I'm going on interview after interview after interview, and I always give them the same advice. I'm like, this is going to sound like so simple and kind of stupid, but whatever you're doing on a daily basis, whether it's your current job, if it's at home with your family, if it's at the store with strangers, try to bring value to everyone you interact with. Because I'm like, that's ultimately what a good sales rep and a good organization
Hmm.
does. And like, seek to understand how you can do that. I'm like, they're like, really? I'm like, I promise you, because that's literally what sales is. You have to uncover how can I bring value and then bring it. But like it kind of takes some pulling it out, like to really understand what you can do to bring value.
100%. It's all about adding value. No matter where you're at in the organization, if you're not adding value, then what are you doing there? And whatever, you got to find out what your superhero powers are. And the management and the organization has to learn how to bring out the superpower heroes and everybody else. The biggest challenge is getting that first opportunity. And a lot of times you're a lot more successful with who you know than kind of what they've done. Understanding that they work together in the culture and along with each other. I don't know how many times I've run into individuals that possess all the knowledge and the talent to be amazing, but they hold them on they hold themselves back from being that great or that fantastic individual. They just don't know how to apply their talent. And a great leader and a great manager could help pull that out of somebody and direct them into a direction that makes them add value and makes them productive.
So what's more important? Maybe they're equally important. Just because a lot what we're talking about is mindset. So like mindset and attitude
hmm
versus just natural ability and talent.
Yeah, I mean, so when we were putting together our sales organization at the other company, we're really looking for more sales engineers. We wanted our sales team to be walking in and providing solutions to our customers, and that's still the kind of theory or understanding that we're trying to do here at Langdale. But we want we want really solution providers. I mean, the days of encyclopedia sales or suitcase salespeople is kind of over. We don't have time for that. We can search on the internet to try to figure out what's what. What we need is somebody to be able to come in and add value to the project, not get in the way, not be a burden, not be a nuisance. How do you get that opportunity to be involved? It kind of comes back to relationships, what we talked about before, and being inquisitive and being eager. It's almost better to have somebody who is extremely eager and enthusiastic than someone who has a bunch of talent and could care less about showing up. You got all that wasted talent that's locked away that they're not willing to use or put forward.
So if you're trying to bring on a sales engineer, and I mean it's not by any means an exact science, but if it's like a someone who you're just like, man, this person's so hungry, they don't necessarily have the experience, they got the right amount of knowledge at least to go in there and be dangerous, but they've got that learner mentality that I want this person, they're gonna be able to figure this out.
Yeah, I want that. You can't teach that part. You can teach
No.
the rest.
How do you decipher that as you're bringing people on?
You can tell. You can tell someone who comes into a room and is genuinely interested about what's going on, picks up on things around them. Yeah, some of my biggest sales and even getting into leadership and management, I love going to go see the customer and walking through and talking about all of their challenges and their problems and finding a part sitting in the corner and asking questions about that part and all of a sudden it leads to this huge opportunity. And it's happened more than one time where we started talking about something totally different than what the invite had on the meeting. And we went down a road to find out that they're having all these difficulties somewhere. And we ended up combining resources and made it happen, closed the deal and had a successful launch for the customer.
What is the best thing that ever happened to you in your life?
Best thing that ever happened to me. Marry my wife.
How long
As
ago was that?
25 years ago. So yeah, so as a growing want to trying to learn and understand and becoming an executive, you're gone a lot, and the household needs to be managed and the home there needs to be consistency at the home. So having a good partner to go through all that with is a huge advantage for sure, and bouncing ideas. It and that's where she's my partner and we mentor each other, and having mentors in your life is a huge deal because you get caught you have kids, you get caught in the Scooby-Doo fog, So I don't know if you've watched Scooby-Doo, and like in Scooby-Doo, they got all this fog and the monster's right in front of them and they're all scared and they don't know what to do. And you're like, the monster's right there. Well, sometimes you just need a third party outside of the fog to look into what's going on and point out what's really right in front of you that you should have seen. But you're so caught up in all the daily, noise that you can't focus and see what's right in front of you. So whether whoever you can talk to and mentor with, whether it's in family stuff, life stuff, or business, it helps to have different mentors that could kind of be outside of the daily fog and help point you in the right direction.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life?
The worst thing, hmm, I've been lucky. There haven't been that many bad things. I mean, I've lost jobs before, but I could look at that as a horrible thing that I got surprised because we lost some funding and I was a sales guy and sales guys are the first guys to get cut. But it ultimately turned me into management and it kind of forced me to look at something differently. I was selling parts and pieces and widgets and products and services, and management's much the same. You're managing your assets, which are people, and you're trying to match them up with the right seat on the bus. Not just that they're on the right bus, make sure they're on the right seat. And once they get to the right seat, are they the most productive individual they can be within the organization? And it led just to a whole nother thought process outside of what I thought I was.
How'd I know your answer was going to be like that? So you kind of naturally seem to just have a more like glass half full mentality. Like,
Yeah, or the
let's find
glass
the
is too big.
opportunity.
Yeah. Maybe your glass is too big. Maybe if you want change, you have to create change. No one's going to do it for you. You have to be willing to change. And most people aren't willing to change. It's hard. It's difficult, right? To completely go into a different industry or a different position or a different company. And sometimes in order to excel, you need to create change.
I mean, I get to talk to a lot of people within manufacturing in the regulated markets. There's a lot of unhappy people. A
Mhm.
lot of people that think the industry there's just no chance in it, and it's pretty similar. Like whatever company they're at, there's like operations can't like whatever that's kind of the same issues, And I'm like, it can help you out with a job, but you're just gonna have the same issues wherever you go. And I think what I'm learning from my own experience, but and just in this conversation, it's a perception problem.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, all those problems are opportunities. I made some of my best customer relationships through some of the worst times, some of the most challenging times in manufacturing history, because we didn't bad news doesn't get better over time. We didn't let it sit. We shared it. We didn't burn them because it's our responsibility to get it across the finish line, but we didn't lie to them. We did not share something that they needed to know. And when we have problems, which we're going to have problems, we bring them up and we have an A, B, and a C solution, and we make them confident that we're doing everything possible in order to make sure that their product means something to us. And when you get in, especially medical devices, right? Like a lot of everything that you're touching, someone's life depends on it. I mean, how many times have you been in the doctor's office? I've been sitting in there and I'm like, oh, we make that, we make that, we make that over there. Oh my gosh, we just quoted this. And so everything that, all the hard work and everything that you've put into it, it ends up saving lives. And if you're not in the operating suite, which a lot of what we're doing now isn't in the operating suite, it could keep you from getting there, whether it's, an airplane part, it's a part of a defense mechanism. So the parts and pieces that you make matter. And if you can kind of relay that to the organization to make sure the organization knows what they do matters, not only to this organization, it's all the families that are attached to this organization, but the products that we build and make, they affect lives every single day. And maybe that individual that's struggling, maybe they're just not in the right industry. It's not for everyone. It is very demanding and it'll always be demanding. It's a highly regulated industry and it's not easy. You have to be built for it. You have to want to or not be afraid to take things apart, not be afraid to make a mess to clean one up. I mean, how often does it take so long to try to fix something or clean it up when it would have been easier just to totally make the huge mess and then clean it all
mhm.
up at one time? And you have to be willing to do that.
When you were a kid, who was your hero?
My goodness. It changed over time. My dad was always my hero, right? And he would take me to work and stuff when I was just a little guy and let me put things together and take them apart and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I loved that interaction of that. And as I started to mature and get older, I've always loved, like, I don't get excited to go see a movie star or a music singer. I get excited to see business owners and entrepreneurs and people who've invented things and made things like that. That gets me super excited and I geek out. So some of all my mentors have been business people.
What was your dad's profession?
He was in turf business, so he worked for Textron and and started out in the turf side, so municipals and like big venues, sports arenas, parks, schools.
And what kind of, I imagine he instilled a very strong value system in you. Like
Yeah,
what did that look like?
if you're not early, you're late. Yeah, if you're doing the minimum, you're not. There's no value. That he did teach me. He was big at team building. So all of his companies that he ran, he'd do a lot of like barbecues and family picnics, and it used to be that you didn't involve any of the larger family, and he tried to bring that kind of together because the reality is a lot of times you spend more time at work than you do at home. And so your work family kind of meeting your home family, there's some miles that go with that. And we try to do that. So we try to do team barbecues and, family events and things like that when it's possible.
I think I have a picture of how you go from sending faxes in 1993 to CEO in 2026. I've got so that constant learner mindset. What can I learn in
Yeah.
any situation? Great team around you. You just touched on that again. Looking at every single thing as an opportunity, and then work ethic. You
Yep.
still need that work ethic.
Not 90% of it showing up. I mean, if you even think about if you want to lose weight or you want to get bigger biceps or you want to be stronger, you want to be better at something, 80% of it's just showing up. Just show up. Get involved. Don't sit back and be angry and grumpy about everything. Dive in and try to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And just in that, eventually, you're going to excel and move your way through. Try to find. Don't be intimidated by leaders and wealth. Try to learn from them. How did you get to where you are? What did you do? You're good at that. You're real good at that, TJ. That's one of the first questions you asked me. Well, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? So by just asking questions, and I think that's one thing that our country slightly lost that I'm hoping comes back and comes back strong is the mentorship. I was super lucky in my life to have several mentors along my way. Each one of them taught me something different about myself, about business, about organizations, how to do things. And then now I'm able to take all of those lessons and kind of cobble them together into what my offering is or what makes me successful. And so having those people to talk to and then doing that same thing for someone else, mentoring someone else. It's crazy how sometimes I'll work with somebody on our team that is on the shop floor or just started or a young individual, and you start explaining them a few things, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, this kid just taught me more than what I just gave them. So there's so much value in just that interaction. You could always learn from anyone at any time.
But it takes, I think not everyone is receptive to being mentored. It kind of takes you to admit that you don't know what you're doing and you need help. But I get to talk to a lot of people who've achieved leadership roles, and that is a trait they all have. So like, so many people helped me along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to want the help. And two, you have to receive the help because I can guarantee you that any leader isn't just put there. They had to fight to get there, and they had a whole bunch of people that helped them to get there. Somebody believed in them that turned their mindset around and shot them in a direction that made them successful. Outside the Scooby-Doo cloud looking in, seeing, oh my gosh, you know what you're really good at? This is your true value offering. And then just really exercising that, honing it in and becoming better. And then, how often are you upset when you try to try to train somebody or teach them something and they're on their phone looking around, they're not paying attention. They're not absorbing the knowledge. And then you get the vice versa, the flip around where someone's just so eager and happy that you're excited to tell them something new, something that they can go work on and grow, and you see them kind of grow up. You have to be humble. You can't be afraid of someone stealing your idea or someone being better than you, or that, you're giving some secret away. There's nothing that hasn't already been invented.
Mm.
The Romans were building stuff, thousands of years ago that we're still using today, and we pretend like we reinvented it. Maybe we optimized it, maybe we added technology and advanced it, but a lot of things that we deal with have already been invented. They've just been optimized. So to think that we've got a true, unique thought is kind of crazy. It's more of like a clarity of observation that we're able to apply.
What's the best advice one of your mentors ever gave you?
To fail fast, fail forward. Never let fear stop you. Always maintain your morals, obviously, and don't break the law. But past that, don't do anything immoral or unethical. But after that, just go for it. Like, the biggest thing that's going to stop progress is perfection. And the first part of my career, I was so afraid of not being perfect. I wanted to own a business, but I was afraid because I didn't possess, something unique enough that I thought that would merit a business. It wasn't the right time to have a family. It wasn't the right time to take that job. It wasn't the right time to take a hobby. As soon as you get rid of all of that, everything else becomes easier, because as soon as you fail, then you understand your gap and you can go work on that gap so you can come back the next day and try it again, or the next week or the next year. So unless you're starting on something and you're advancing and you're not trying things and you're not progressing, that was probably the biggest thing, is not being afraid of failure. Don't be stupid, operate from a position of knowledge and utilize your team and your expertise that's wrapped around you. But at the end of the day, if you're waiting for perfection, you'll never get in.
So are you not afraid of failing, or like maybe you have some of that fear, but you've just learned to take action anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess bravery is acting in the face of fear, right? Yeah. And so there's still things that scare the bejesus out of me. I don't know how bad words I could say, but the crow out of me. But you gotta go for it. You gotta, be fearless and run towards the fire instead of away from it.
This is fantastic, man. I could keep talking to you forever. One last question. If you could leave one piece of advice to everybody watching this or listening, what would it be?
Yeah, don't stop. Keep going. Learn. Never stop learning. Never stop improving. Don't sell yourself short, and don't ever have an ego that says that you can't learn from anyone and everything, whether it's the way something broke or whether it's how someone sweeps the floor. There's always a learning opportunity to understand and improve. Don't stop at the highlights. Fully understand the whole mechanism. So many people think they understand a business or a manufacturing process, but they only understand the bullet points. Understand the underneath part that makes it all great, the whole infrastructure. Most of manufacturing and businesses are built because of a whole ecosystem, not a one thing. You can't go out and buy an injection mold press and become an injection molder. It, you got to have way more than that. You got to have engineering support. You have to, be able to build tools, and you have to have, cooling systems and granulators and mixers and blenders and a whole infrastructure of people and quality management. It's a whole ecosystem that comes together to create something. So don't stop at the bullet points. Truly understand what it is, and then pull out and simplify the offering and the value. Make sure that you don't allow noise to get in the way of what's actually producing or creating value. Busy work is not the same as productivity. Just to be busy doesn't mean you're productive. So make sure that you're being productive and adding value in the best way you possibly can.
Anything else? I don't know what you can share about your company. Anything else about what you're working on right now?
Yeah, for sure. So Langdale's a group of companies that we're bringing together. So Brian, who is the chairman of the board and the founder of the organization, is financing, the kickoff of this phase. We worked together at Molded Devices, which then became Aptics. We were there for about 12 years together, and Brian started it. He was in that position for about 20 years in total. So during the 12 years that I was with him, we acquired, I think it was like 17 different companies and rolled them into one organization. And our offering there was a little more med device forward, a little more medical forward, but the idea was the same. We wanted to take these small entrepreneurial businesses, family-owned organizations, and add outside infrastructure that allowed them to offer to more goods to a single OEM. At Langdale, we want to do the same thing. So we're opening up our markets. So we're going after aviation, utilities. We do have, some medical that's mixed in there. Anything that's a highly regulatory business, regulated business that has a specialty manufacturing capability. So we're more on the rubber side. There's a lot of transition happening on rubber right now, where there's some chemicals that are PFAS free type options. So there's going to be some science involved in creating solutions for products. We're seeing that a few years back, everything was offshore, and everything was going off to Asia or China or Malaysia. We're starting to see a bit of a turn where critical infrastructure is coming back to North America, and we want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that transition and that migration back. Now, the crazy part of it is as we were transitioning all those technical people that were involved, a lot of them found other things to do. They're aging and they're now into that retirement area. The new generation has learned through textbooks, so they might be able to make a part on a CAD model, but you can only make one. It's not repeatable. They don't have that actual knowledge of how do I actually get something into production and commercially ready. So there's some of that knowledge gap that's lost. And then you've got these family organizations where they're kind of going through this trend of the next generation doesn't really want to work with their hands. They don't want to make things.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting ready to retire. All that tribal knowledge is kept in the head of those creators and those superheroes. So our vision is to find these smaller family-owned specialty manufacturers, take away all the noise and allow them to be the best that they can be. We'll put over the top, we'll put engineering support, quality support, program management, scalability, finance, capital, so that they can now react with the larger OEMs across the manufacturing platforms, where before it was kind of risky for a large OEM to interact, or they're having to deal with 5 or 6 different family-owned organizations to come together for one complete part. Now we'll have that complete offering in one phone call, and we'll make sure that you're getting the right process at the right time and the right quality. And we'll do it right here in North America.
How do I invest?
Yeah, we can make that happen. Yeah, we're excited. So we're taking, 12 years of things that we did wrong, failures, if you will, at the other company, and then kind of rolling that into this new investment thesis. It's the same investment thesis. It's just a little bit different sandbox with a little bit different capabilities, and we're tremendously excited about it.
There you have it. Langdale Holdings, Tobe Allenbrand. Can't wait to hear what the company's called.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
We'll do a launch party. Appreciate it.